Greetings, superior beings, greetings, supreme being. We are all the human race. Our common enemy is death. Welcome on Perfect Society. I'm Ulrich Hoffman, and you're watching the broadcast. Coronavirus spread by chemtrails or via air, airborne, ? Check rainwater, check if antibody dependent. So yeah, why don't we know yet whether it's antibody dependent or not when we can see pictures of the virus everywhere online? I'll turn off the live stream thing. Okay. Let's first go to that picture. This one. So let me first explain why it's a conspiracy fact and not a conspiracy theory. Chemtrails are a conspiracy fact in reality because, well, you know, there's Project Cloverleaf. It's called Project Cloverleaf. You have the cloud seeding patterns, but especially because on pictures of before 1998, when Project Cloverleaf started, we can see on pictures and videos that there are no pictures and videos of planes making long white lines in the sky, these persistent cancer chemtrails in America, CIA. So it's the CIA's evergreen air, evergreen aviation. We've seen that picture of Trump and Merkel on a cancer chemtrail plane. So they're really lying to us in reality. They pretend they're contrails, condensation vapors, which is impossible proven by this fact. So it's a conspiracy fact, not a conspiracy theory, because this is happening all around the world, so there must be a conspiracy, a population reduction conspiracy, also proven beyond any reasonable doubt by the book quotes, $1 Million Georgia Guidestones of people that advocated population reduction to 500 million, some to 100 million, etc., covered in my previous broadcasts. The video 50 shocking population reduction quotes. So that's not helping to create a perfect society in which we all live happily eternally. And as a matter of fact, it's doing the opposite. So it's a conspiracy fact. Cancer chemtrails are a conspiracy fact, not theory. And I'm a conspiracy factist. And I'm open to debate. People can Skype ProLogic 999, but they don't because they know I'll win. So here you can see that the cancer chemtrails in this case are not dispersed from the engines, though they also have a patent to mix it in with jet fuel. This is dispersed from separate nozzles on the plane. And there are other pictures of these cloud seeding nozzles, these dispersal units. Contrail signs. No, the cloud seeding patterns make it clear as well. And the list of ingredients of cancer chemtrails makes it clear as well. The reason for this broadcast is I was cycling to get to shop, basically, and I saw a beautiful red cloud sunset. And the thing is, they put altered blood plasma in the cancer chemtrails combined with their designer viruses so that they're absorbed by people's blood. This is the picture of Trump on a cancer chemtrail plane. So the difference between contrails and chemtrails is clear, and this is done for cloud seeding purposes to contribute to anthropogenic global warming, for the carbon tax scam, because these cancer chemtrails form clouds. You can see that the sky is white. It's like some fictional entities holding a sheet of paper against the sky over our heads, basically. So the heat is trapped between the Earth and the cloud-seeded clouds, so that the heat cannot dissipate into space, and that contributes to global warming. They also do this with geoengineering, modifying the jet stream with their ionospheric heaters. And HARP is a fake facility, open every 6 years to the public. This also has the patent on it. Global research. Chemtrails, a planetary catastrophe created by geoengineering. Patent number 7,413,145. Systems and methods for aerial dispersion of materials, filed by none other than CIA's Evergreen Air. Persistent cancer chemtrails, and that was about the color, basically. So do they have the thing about ethylene dibramide? Let's read this then. I might read the whole article. 2013. So it's vital to check that rainwater if the coronavirus is in there, and if it is, then they can test if it's antibody dependent or not. Because if it's not antibody dependent, then all people have to do is get their immune system up with known working methods, produce more antibodies, vitamin C, vitamin E, B12, etc. So the vitamins, a balanced diet usually is best. So that's the way the vitamins are absorbed best by the body. And people can also buy vegan food supplements or formulas with echinacea, astragalus root powder, vitamin A and C, zinc and selenium. So this is clearly done to reduce the global population. These people are lying for a reason, and they control the government, so they are the lawmakers. They determine who goes to jail and who is privileged, perhaps fellow Masons, etc., that are judges and police officers as well, in theory. Perpetrators let the text-to-speech engine hang so people tune out. This is all done sabotage systematically to reduce the global population to 500 million and rule the world from Jerusalem, allegedly by the Jesuits, of course. Jesuits and Masons The Jesuits are in control of the intelligence agencies, which are all Masonic, according to Citizens Action Network on Facebook, and no one has been able to disprove this to me. So if it's true, of course, you have a lot of people that want to ridicule the truth and to hide it, so that they cannot be held responsible for their actions. Accountability, that's what it's about. And they can get away with anything. If that company is not involved with creating engineering viruses, etc. But they're a biotech company, so they might be, I don't know. And of course, if they created it, then it can be spread in Wuhan. They're not going to spread it near their own building. That doesn't make sense. So let's restart that speech engine. And I haven't verified this if they are also involved in creating, for example, genetically altered viruses for medical companies, for the medical cartel. The white blood cell, that's the one we want. Okay, it started the speech engine. Let's read the article.
Chemtrails, a planetary catastrophe created by geoengineering by Global Research News. Global Research, October 23, 2013. Engineeringwatch.org and CosmicConvergence.org. Print 7115-8-157. Planet Earth has been besieged by many and diverse scientific experiments over the past 100 years. Applied science and technology have seen a literal explosion of top-secret and highly classified operations conducted in the atmosphere, throughout the planetary surface, as well as deep within the Earth's crust. However, none comes close to the degree of round-the-clock damage inflicted on the biosphere as the DARPA-sponsored program of geoengineering. Just one component of this secret geoengineering program is known as chemtrails. For those who have never heard of chemtrails, they are not to be confused with contrails, which...
So basically this is just a YouTube video. If I'm wrong about something, let me know in the comments, then I can remove this video. Or I can make another video in which I correct my error and leave this online, because it's still a good idea to test the rainwater and test if the coronavirus 2019 nCoV is antibody dependent or not.
Are the normal exhaust vapors ejected from jet engines in flight. Here is a photo of numerous chemtrails having just been laid down by special jets equipped to do the job. Can you imagine that the government has labeled these chemtrails as normal contrail activity? Every reader of this article needs to understand that, where it concerns the outright destruction of the human habitat, geoengineering reigns supreme in its potential to render the planet unfit for life. All life, human, animal, and plant. Geoengineering has so many different facets to it, each of which are extraordinarily harmful to all levels of the Earth's atmosphere, the entire surface environment, as well as the subterranean geology and motions of the world. So dangerous and little understood are the far-reaching repercussions of this geoengineering assault that those of us who are initiated in this realm wonder if we are literally 1 minute to midnight. For the reader's benefit, we have included a short photo documentary so that all doubt will be removed as to the pervasiveness and relentlessness of chemtrail spraying of the skies throughout the world. Image 004, Image 006, Image 008, Image 009, Image 011, Image 012, Image 013, Image 015, Image 017, Image 019, Image 020, Image 021. Image 022, Image 024, Image 027, Image 028, Image 030, Image 032, Image 033. Surely we have made the point by now, and that point is well taken. If not, then one is necessarily compelled to read further. What exactly is a chemtrail? What are the toxic chemicals they are spraying on us? The term chemtrail is a combination of the words chemical and trail, just as contrail is a contraction of condensation trail. The term does not refer to other forms of aerial spraying such as agricultural spraying, crop dusting, cloud seeding, skywriting, or aerial firefighting. The term specifically refers to aerial trails caused by the systematic high-altitude release of chemical substances not found in ordinary contrails, resulting in the appearance of characteristic sky tracks. The chemtrail trails left by aircraft are chemical or biological agents deliberately sprayed at high altitudes for purposes undisclosed to the general public and directed by various government officials. The existence of chemtrails phenomena as streams that persist for hours and that, with their crisscross, grid-like or parallel stripe patterns.
So the CIA Vatican edited encyclopedia Wikipedia likes to pretend that it's a theory, though it's a fact. I've explained why. Because this is done globally, and because you have Project Cloverleaf, and the fact that before 1998, when Project Cloverleaf started, there were no long white lines in the sky, as we can see on video and pictures of before that date. So they're not contrails, which is their official lie, basically.
Eventually blend to form large clouds. Proponents view the presence of visible color spectra in the streams, unusual concentrations of sky tracks in a single area, or lingering tracks left by unmarked or military airplanes flying at atypical altitudes or locations as markers of chemtrails. Wikipedia. You know, when Wikipedia provides such an accurate description, superficial though it may be, that there's much more to this cover-top than even the best researchers have been able to determine. For a more in-depth discussion, we will defer to the experts who have scientifically analyzed chemtrails to the greatest extent possible. Their explanation is as good as it gets. Geoengineering Watch. As for the chemical components which have been found in their wake, these known toxins can no longer be denied. The following website is a good place to start to answer these two questions: geoengineering and chemtrails. What in the world are they spraying, and why? Here is a list of chemicals which are routinely disseminated.
So I distrust their story that this would be a picture of a plane, cancer-causing Tachinellus plane, with ballast barrels, that these would be ballast barrels with water, because that would be very heavy, and they just divide whatever cargo they have in the plane, so that it's not all in the back or in the front, or to the left or right, and that can all be corrected in the air with the rudders and everything. So I distrust the idea that these are ballast barrels and not used for cancer chemtrails, but it is clear that we see cancer chemtrail planes. So then the question is, how do they look on the inside? There's even a patent to mix these cancer chemtrails with the fuel, so then it would come out of the fuel engines of the Tachinellus cancer-causing planes, jets, etc., passenger jets. So I don't believe anything. Believing is stupid, knowing is smart. And Wikipedia and the WHO can also be lying, of course. They want to fill their pockets, they have their own agenda, which may be a population reduction agenda. So trust no one, nothing is what it seems to get to the truth. And the problem is the harmful toxins that are in the cancer chemtrails, besides cancer-causing barium, which is about 80% of it. So let's read on. Project Cloverleaf.
Via chemtrail spraying. Over the past decade, independent testing of chemtrails around the country has shown a dangerous, extremely poisonous brew that includes barium, nano-aluminum-coated fiberglass, known as chaff, radioactive thorium, cadmium, chromium, nickel, desiccated blood, mold spores, yellow fungal mycotoxins, ethylene dibromide, and polymer fibers. Barium can be compared to the toxicity of arsenic. Barium is known to adversely affect the heart. Aluminum has a history of damaging brain function. Independent researchers and labs continue to show off the scale levels of these poisons. A few anonymous officials have acknowledged this ongoing aerosol spraying. 1. We in no way mean to minimize the incessant injury to human health across the planet which occurs through the breathing and ingestion of the chemicals which are contained in chemtrails. What good can possibly come from barium salts or aluminum oxide or vaporized mercury or strontium-90 or uranium-238 being sprayed throughout the skies worldwide? Clearly, the extremely deleterious effects to human health, as well as to all living organisms, is self-evident. However, the purpose of this essay is not to further unveil their agenda with regard to human engineering of the physical organism. Rather, the scope of this article is to lay bare the most profound and fundamental alterations which geoengineering is producing to the planet and its atmosphere. When these are both permanently altered in ways that are irreversible, the human race is then confronted with an extinction-level event, ongoing, slow motion, insidious, under the radar, pernicious to living organisms, but nevertheless ill. Geoengineering is a term which includes highly advanced forms of applied science and technologies, various newfangled chemical agents and synthetic materials, scientific bending of physical reality, as well as an assortment of reverse-engineered modalities which are combined to produce specific outcomes. Because of the complexity of this essentially callow experiment, there are an infinite number of permutations which can be executed at any given time or place. Therefore, the number of opportunities for things to go wrong can be intensified exponentially. Of course, the butterfly effect takes on new and dramatic meaning in the context of geoengineering because nothing ever happens in a vacuum on this blue orb of ours. In fact, the more that the scientific community attempts to engineer weather, for example by manipulating hurricane and tornadoes or creating rain clouds, the more the boomerang effect takes hold. A butterfly flaps its wings somewhere and the wind changes, and a warm front hits a cold front off the coast of Western Africa and before you know it you've got a hurricane closing in. By the time anyone figured out the storm was coming, it was too late to do anything but batten down the hatches and exercise damage control. Karen Marie Munning, Dark Fever. For those who have never seen the actual aerosol sprays being ejected from the planes which are specially equipped, here are just a few snapshots. We only wish to make the point that this global chemtrail operation is certainly a little more consequential than a butterfly beating its wings in Brazil or Botswana. Image 036, Image 038, Image 039, Image 041, Image 043, DFST 90055759, Image 046, Image 047, Image 049, Image 051, Image 053, Image 055. Image 056, Image 058, Image 059, Image 060, Image 061, Image 062, Image 063, Image 064, Image 065 HARP-generated frequencies being conveyed through chemtrail-laden skies. The rapid proliferation of chemtrail spraying over the past few years has greatly increased the opportunities for frequencies to be disseminated through the new atmosphere that is being engineered. These frequencies are set to produce a number of different outcomes, the most significant being to slow down the global warming phenomenon which is currently manifesting everywhere on the planet. Because of such ill-fated attempts to effectuate such drastic changes in weather patterns that have been established for centuries, we now see drought where rain was once plentiful, and monsoons where there was drought. For instance, there are locations in Northern California and Oregon that have been without rain for 6 months. The forests in that area are literally dying because of lack of water and their consequent weakening, which makes them susceptible to pestilence and disease. Likewise, there are areas in the southeast such as Florida and South Georgia which have just seen their first monsoon season in modern history. The meteorological dynamics for both of these radical shifts are directly caused by geoengineering. In fact, although it is a very complicated story, and one that is almost unbelievable at times, conclusive evidence has been amassed that supports the ubiquitous damage to the environment caused by chemtrails and geoengineering. In our next essay we will lay bare the geoengineering agenda which has given rise to these climatological anomalies. When evaluated in the aggregate around the globe, it will be understood that weather patterns on planet Earth will never be the same again. It is for this reason that the Cosmic Convergence Research Group, CCRG, has begun this series on geoengineering and chemtrails. There is perhaps no greater threat to the sustainability of life on Earth than this issue of geoengineering. One of the primary reasons is because it remains hidden and denied by the governments of the world. Therefore it continues unabated, and is expanded with every turn of the globe. Those of us who know and have witnessed its exceptionally destructive results, and have protested, have been faced with fierce resistance. We intend to deeply explore the reasons for this unparalleled obstruction, and reveal how critical it is that humankind terminate this agenda once and for all. For reasons that will become obvious, the CCRG highly recommends the viewing and distribution of the following 2 videos. What in the world are they spraying? Full length. Why in the world are they spraying? Full length documentary. Conclusion. How can there possibly be a conclusion to this introductory piece on geoengineering when we've barely scratched the surface? When glaciers that have survived over millennia are melting at record rates, and the polar ice caps are disintegrating before our eyes, one begins to apprehend the gravity of this matter. Were one to objectively assess the catastrophic weather events over the past 10 years, it would become readily apparent that forces are at work that cannot be slowed down. Any attempt to do so will only make matters substantially worse. And so they have. Because of man's insistence on playing God with the forces of nature, the normal balance has been irrevocably altered. As the scientific community continues to apply a pharmaceutical approach to fix things, it is clear that much worse scenarios are being set in motion. By treating the symptoms of a planetary transformation which must take its course, those governments and corporations responsible have essentially thrown more fuel on the fire. The fire of global warming, or global climate change, whichever you prefer, will not be extinguished until Mother Earth has completed a requisite period of renewal and rebirth. It's now time for the planetary civilization to participate in, rather than impede, this necessary process of planetary metamorphosis. Cosmic Convergence Research Group submitted, September 11, 2013 Cosmic Convergence 2012@gmail.com. Notes. 1. Chemtrails, the consequences of toxic metals and chemical aerosols on human health by Dr. Ilyasandra Perlinieri, Global Research, May 12, 2010. Required reading. To fully understand why such a fundamentally flawed geoengineering paradigm was even created, the following essay will provide some answers. Cosmic convergence accelerates epochal planetary transformation. Author's note. The key takeaway from this essay is that geoengineering represents perhaps the single greatest threat to the biosphere. Because of its pervasiveness and profundity, geoengineering has the potential to perpetuate numerous self-destructive feedback loops, many of which have already been operative for decades. Especially when considered in the context of 2013 catastrophism, geoengineering may very well provide the straw that breaks the back of planet Earth. Why? Because of the convergence of so many other ongoing events and processes, both man-made and naturally occurring on the Earth and within the solar system, which present considerable stresses to the planetary living environment. When the multitude of ecosystems start to collapse around the world, those breaking points become history. Each of them may eventually translate to a point of no return, if they haven't already. As certain key environmental thresholds are exceeded, humankind is challenged to reverse trends which may no longer be possible to reverse. Too many detrimental and/or counterproductive trajectories are already pointing northward. It is in this global context which geoengineering can produce many awesome, unknown, and irrevocable unintended consequences. It appears to serve as a trigger for much of what has already been thrown out of balance. By working synergistically with other negative feedback loops, geoengineering can also serve to significantly accentuate various downward spirals of planetary and atmospheric degradation. That's precisely why it must be terminated, now. Image 067, Image 069, Image 071, Image 073, Image 074. What are the causes of catastrophic incidents? The impacts of geoengineering on climate and the environment. Image 075, Image 076, Image 077. The original source of this article is geoengineeringwatch.org and cosmicconvergence.org. Copyright Global Research News, geoengineeringwatch.org and cosmicconvergence.org, 2013.
So if anthropogenic man-made global warming would have been real, which it is not, then they also would have told us about the cancer cell phone radiation, microwaves, heating up our eyeball with 2 degrees Celsius, and about chlorine in the propellant of spaceships, rocket propellant. Chlorine breaks down the ozone layer, and a couple of other things. So this is purely about the money, not about the earth, not about saving the earth, which is a diversion tactic basically, to misdirect people to save the earth instead of the people. And the earth is dead, of course, so the earth cannot be saved. Only the organisms on and in it are alive. Most contagious diseases is perhaps a good idea. So according to this piece of information, source Journal of Medical Virology, Reuters, Statista, the new coronavirus is less contagious than Ebola, influenza, SARS coronavirus, HIV, AIDS, mumps, polio, smallpox and measles. They are all more contagious than the new coronavirus 2019 and cough. Okay. So are they dispersing this in the cancer chemtrails? If it's airborne, how airborne is it? Water evaporates. Can that water also carry the virus? And can they dump it via cancer chemtrails and say, oh yeah, it's airborne, it's not like Ebola, which may be airborne as well in reality, but they were saying it's not airborne. So that's the theory. It may be inside of us already, and perhaps they can trigger it with their scalar weapon also. It can be designer virus, it can be advanced, it can contain genetically modified ingredients that can do things people never dreamt were possible, in theory. So we can check that rainwater. And I think that's the government's job. Is there a body in our government, in the Netherlands, in the US, in all other countries of the world? Is anybody collecting rainwater to see what's in it, to get it analyzed in a lab? There is somebody online who has done that, but I have not found other government officials that test for the amount of barium and other things in the rainwater. And if that's not done, then the question is, why are they not checking that? Well, of course, if this is some kind of black operation, I've covered black, grey and white ops in previous broadcast, white being the least secret, overt, and black ops being covert, completely secret, top secret information and projects, programs and operations. So this is all declassified. Project Cloverleaf is declassified, and we don't read anything about Project Cloverleaf in the wiki article. Isn't that weird? And the question is also, are George Soros and Margaret Chan both really members of the Committee of 300, the subversive body of the Club of Rome? And if they would be, would anybody be able to prove it if it's a secret society? Don't know if they are. But Masons are, according to sources online. And the Jesuits as well. Their military order, posing as a religious order, or rather, religion is part of their psychological warfare, part of real warfare, which makes sense when they're a military order. You could argue, though, it makes more sense to prevent a world war and prevent wars, to prevent escalation into a world war, mutually assured destruction. So is this coronavirus thing just to cover up what's happening in the Middle East? To create that Kushner-Trump peace plan, two-state solution, world war? More about it in my previous broadcast, so check them out on Perfect Society. Go back to desktop. Well, this is interesting. So could these be ballasts? These are definitely cancer chemtrails. The patent is on it. So that's the way the cancer chemtrail planes, at least some of them look on the inside. Whether these are cancer chemtrail planes as well or not doesn't matter. We can see the difference also when these passenger jets and others fly above our heads. Some of them have a very long, according to them, contrail, and others have no contrail. And we also see that in mid-air sometimes the chemtrailing stops and then it becomes a normal contrail. So how anybody can think that that's not cloud seeding, that it's not geoengineering, that's a joke because they fly at a much higher altitude, so you cannot hear their engines. And then there are these thousands of birds dropping from the sky, and when that happens they claim it's HAARP, which is a fake facility open every 6 years to the public, because they want to deny the existence of chemtrails, the cloud seeding patents, Project Cloverleaf, and their population reduction agenda, which is proven beyond any reasonable doubt by the book quotes $1 million Georgia Guidestones, which I'll keep saying until they are arrested, since 7 billion people's lives may depend on that. So I'm thinking, what words should one use on YouTube? Cloud seeding, we can read the wiki article. So that's not a conspiracy theory.
Cloud seeding is a type of weather modification that aims to change the amount or type of precipitation that falls from clouds by dispersing substances into the air that serve as cloud condensation or ice nuclei, which alter the microphysical processes within the cloud. The usual intent is to increase precipitation, rain or snow, but hail and fog suppression are also widely practiced in airports where harsh weather conditions are experienced. Cloud seeding also occurs due to ice nucleators in nature, most of which are bacterial in origin. Patents.justia.com Patent U.S. Patent for Enhanced Aerial Delivery System Patent. Patent. A method and apparatus for aerial fire suppression utilizing a potable fire retardant chemical dispensing system, readily adaptable, without extensive aircraft modification, to various makes of aircraft, for dispensing current types of forest and range firefighting chemicals. The aerial delivery system is self-contained and reusable. It enables cargo, utility aircraft to carry and dump a load, under control. The aerial delivery system is capable of attachment at the wing box, pressurized delivery from the nozzles, and nozzles directed straight downward. Chemical dispensing system.
Chemicals have a synergistic effect with cancer-causing electromagnetic radiation, according to Dr. Cyril Smith. So chemicals are to be avoided. Avoid breathing them in, avoid eating and drinking chemicals. We are natural beings. Qua chemical, that's cancer-causing prescription drugs. Sometimes that's still the best option for a person. I also underwent chemotherapy. You could argue voluntarily, otherwise they would have treated me against my will anyway. But at that time, I first wanted to explore all other roads and natural cures. And I've done that to the moment that was reasonably possible. So people do have to take a chemical, this cancer risk increasing prescription drug sometimes. I just formulate it this way because it's YouTube, so it has to be entertaining. It has to program them to alter their chances of survival for the better. People who want to reduce the global population might disagree with this. That's possible. Margaret Chan or George Soros can just Skype Prologic 999, get me some views. It would be wonderful. Don't know if I should say I'd be honored. But if they're not criminals in reality, then I'd be honored, because they're quite popular. So, what can I say? The patents are online. Prince Rogers Nelson is dead. He talked about chemtrails as well, superstar. Jehovah's Witness, not a Catholic person. So yeah, we have to do the wrong thing. Sometimes we have to poison ourselves to cure ourselves. So some people think pharmacy is derived from the word pharmakia, meaning witchcraft and poison. So these people are just there to poison us. They know the cure. Esculapus makes clear they know what a Möbius coil is. It generates these scalar waves. Or not. I mean, they're just two snakes around a stick with wings behind it. So that's, you could argue that's not a Möbius coil. I've covered coils in previous broadcasts, so I'm not going into that too deeply now. But it's easy to make your own scalar wave with, some call it an SBB coil, a tone generator that's amplified enough, and healing Dr. frequencies, for example 10,000 Hertz, 5,000 Hertz, 787, 727. These cure all Dr. frequencies. Everything has a natural frequency, not just living organisms, but also bridges, for example. And there are frequencies that can disintegrate the bridge, for example, sound waves, because everything is energy. The oxymoron, all this vibration rings through or something, rings through. Anyway, should I say that's theory? It's what some people claim, let me put it that way. And people can Google everything I say. So that's how some things I say are meant. You could even argue it's satire, it's YouTube, it's not meant to be taken too seriously if it's important. Google it and compare people that confirm and deny it. And look for evidence, reproducible tests, petri dish experiments, things like that. We see the pictures of the coronavirus online. That means they have it in a lab, etc. They can experiment with it, see if it's killed by antibodies or if it's an antibody-dependent virus that sort of eats antibodies and lives from antibodies, like Ebola. I'm not a medical doctor, so that's just my thought about it. Sort of the common man view, a bit more intelligent than average. I also studied at the University of Amsterdam for a while. So, is there any reason against testing that rainwater in a lab daily? The government testing the rainwater and also reporting online what their findings are so that we know what's in it. They have to do that for tap water, so that information is available in the Netherlands, but not for... So I advise everybody to use a tap water filter, of course. I've shown a picture on my website that shows how dirty these filters get after a while. Okay, regenwateranalyse, rainwater analysis in Dutch. Rainwater full of toxins, de Volkskrant. Regenwater vol gifstof in Dutch. Okay, let's... I don't really see any governmental organization or group. They are usually citizens or the drinking water platform in the Netherlands, people like that who talk about the quality of the rainwater, but it should be analyzed. But I think they keep it secret deliberately, of course. They don't want us to know about their design of viruses, altered blood plasma, highly mutated molds in the cancer chemtrails, which they may do under the guise of vaccines, basically, and the Open Sky Treaty. But in reality, people have a right to physical integrity, so population reduction to 500 million with cancer chemtrails is not allowed either. It's in violation of international law and people's most important basic human right, the right to physical integrity, of course. The right to bodily integrity also in their local constitution. UDHR is not legally binding, but their local constitution is. So that's good to know. So why is the government not producing an analysis? When I type in rainwater analysis, Google should show me the analysis for the location where I live. day and age, in the time of the biological and chemical weapons, not just nuclear and directed energy weapons. So perhaps there are people checking it for safety, but they have unsafety standards, like with the cancer cell phone radiation, and they don't think it's alarming when 1 in 2 people get cancer, which is the prognosis of Medscape.com. 1 in 2 people will get cancer. And that's just based on the official numbers. Tea tree oil is a good idea at this point. Staying warm, which can also be done with clothing. People don't have to heat up their house, though that would also kill it, so they can make it very hot for 5 minutes or so and then let it cool down again. But then the question is also, at what temperature does the coronavirus die, the C virus? If C virus dies at 38 degrees, then getting warm ourselves would kill it as well. But if it only dies at 78 degrees Celsius, then that wouldn't help. So then also keeping the house warm would not help at all. Only perhaps to make it dry out. Perhaps it needs moisture. But I thought that I read the opposite, basically. That hot, moist air is the best way to kill it, and hot, dry air is not as good. But the statistics, or the diagram, it was yesterday or the day before in one of my broadcasts, seemed, well, perhaps that's also not telling us the truth. A diagram is made by people, and people can also make mistakes. It's not the first time that a vaccine is contaminated. And Bayer shipped, oh yeah, I wanted to show that video in a previous broadcast, so now I'm gonna play that then. Bayer pharmaceutical company willingly and knowingly dumped medicine that was contaminated with the AIDS virus overseas. So are they extorted by people with directed energy weapons, or are they themselves engaged in population reduction? They admitted to giving hemophiliacs HIV factor 8. And the other one, Bayer knowingly sold AIDS contaminated drugs factor 8. Okay, let's play this video. So this is there a year on it? Well, we'll just have to watch the video. Is my mic? Ah, my mic is on, okay.
Mike, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being on tonight.
Thanks for the invitation, Joe.
Okay, let's talk about the rat of the week. Why is Bayer Corporation the rat of the week?
Internal documents show that after this company positively, absolutely knew that they had a medication that was infected with the AIDS virus, they took the product off the market in the U.S. and then they dumped it in France, Europe, Asia, and Latin America. The medicine's called Factor 8. It was an injection medicine that was used for hemophiliacs, mostly children. Children had been born with an incurable disease.
Hold on, Mike. So hold on. So you're telling me that Bayer knew that this drug was infected infected with the AIDS virus. They yanked it from the market in America, and then they dumped it in markets overseas.
They had to figure out a way, Joe, to make a profit on a product that they could not sell in America. So they made a huge profit. They dropped the product in Japan, Spain, and France. By the way, Joe, government officials in France that allowed that to happen actually had to go to prison for it. In America, not one corporate executive for this company has been indicted or even criminally investigated by our Justice Department.
Why not? What, you're telling me that these people that dumped this AIDS-tainted blood in foreign countries, who killed children, have not been taken to task in the United States?
It's worse than that. The U.S. government allowed it to happen. The FDA allowed this to happen. And now the government is completely looking the other way. Thousands of innocent hemophiliacs have died from the AIDS virus. And not only they're dying, their family members are dying because they're becoming infected with the disease. This company knew absolutely that they had a problem with the product. They knew that it was infected with AIDS. They dumped it because they wanted to turn this disaster into a profit.
Mike, I want to read to you what Bayer told the New York Times about this scandal. They said Bayer behaved responsibly, ethically, and humanely. Decisions made nearly 2 decades ago were based on the best scientific information of the time and were consistent with the regulations in place. That sounds like a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo. Now, you say you have internal documents that show that they knew that this drug they were dumping was tainted with the AIDS drug? Or the AIDS virus?
The documents show that there was no question that this company absolutely understood the risk, that they knew that it was contaminated. It wasn't a possibility. They knew it was contaminated. Americans were dying from the product before it was pulled off the market. The only reason it was pulled off the market is because lawyers found the documents and showed it to the government, and finally the government said, you can't sell it here, but then the government allowed them to dump it in Spain, France, and Japan.
That's amazing. That's just amazing. Well, I want to read to you what the New York Times said, and this is an investigation that they also did, and they said the federal government was part of the problem while the Food and Drug Administration told the company not to ship the drugs overseas. The man responsible for the drug supply, quote, asked that the issue be quietly solved without alerting the Congress, the medical community, and the public. This is a cover-up, and our Congress is not doing anything. What should Americans do?
So, apparently Bayer still exists. You can see their stock going up and down, etc. Perhaps they could do a rainwater analysis for the public to make it up to them what happened. So it was a medicine called Factor 8. They were talking about blood, so let's read the wiki article about Factor 8, at least the intro.
Factor 8, Phe, is an essential blood clotting protein, also known as anti-hemophilic factor, AHF. In humans, Factor 8 is encoded by the F8 gene. 5-6 defects in this gene result in hemophilia A, a recessive X-linked coagulation disorder. 7. Factor 8 is produced in liver sinusoidal cells and endothelial cells outside the liver throughout the body. This protein circulates in the bloodstream in an inactive form, bound to another molecule called von Willebrand factor, until an injury that damages blood vessels occurs. 8. In response to injury, coagulation factor 8 is activated and separates from von Willebrand factor, the active protein, sometimes written as coagulation factor VIA, interacts with another coagulation factor called factor IX. This interaction sets off a chain of additional chemical reactions that form a blood clot. 8. Factor VIII participates in blood coagulation. It is a cofactor for factor IX, which, in the presence of Ca2+ and phospholipids, forms a complex that converts factor X to the activated forms A. The factor VIII gene produces two alternatively spliced transcripts. Transcript variant 1 encodes a large glycoprotein, isoform A, which circulates in plasma and associates with von Willebrand factor in a non-covalent complex. This protein undergoes multiple cleavage events. Transcript variant 2 encodes a putative small protein, isoform B, which consists primarily of the phospholipid binding domain of factor VIII. This binding domain is essential for coagulant activity. 9. People with high levels of factor VIII are at increased risk for deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism. 10. Copper is a required cofactor for factor VIII, and copper deficiency is known to increase the activity of factor VIII. 11. There is a formulation as a medication that is on the WHO model list of essential medicines, the most important medications needed in a basic health system.
So the opposite is blood thinning, of course, blood thinners. And chamomile tea also has a blood thinning effect. Coumarol may also have... don't know if that's totally natural, but that's a blood thinner. Coumarol. I can check that later. First, contamination scandal. Main article: contaminated hemophilia blood products. And it was in 1980.
In the 1980s, some pharmaceutical companies such as Baxter International and Bayer sparked controversy by continuing to sell contaminated factor VIII after new heat-treated versions were available. 23.
Oh, it was in the 1980s. I saw that fast. I thought it's... but the point is, it's 40 years ago almost.
Under FDA pressure, unheated product was pulled from U.S. markets, but was sold to Asian, Latin American, and some European countries. The product was tainted with HIV, a concern that had been discussed by Bayer and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. 23. In the early 1990s, pharmaceutical companies began to produce recombinant synthesized factor products, which now prevent nearly all forms of disease transmission during replacement therapy.
So the other thing I wanted to say is, if people use chamomile tea, they can also use things that make their blood thicker, get coagulation up with, for example, tomatoes and bananas, kalium. So it may be balanced for us. Many people have been tested in the hospital, so then they know if their blood is too thick or thin, or if it's within the margins that they think are appropriate. And they may be right about these margins to a certain extent, but you can argue about whether they're involved in the population reduction, or powerful people that can change these margins would do so to change them to unsafe standards to reduce the global population growth, for example. Okay. Well, people can read a lot more about it online. Don't want to make my broadcast too long. Some interesting points are in this one. I advise everybody to check my other broadcasts. And perhaps tea tree oil is one of the best oils to use if you want to kill the virus. There are too many corona virions. That's the idea. Oh wow, I don't have to roll. And make sure that it's real tea tree oil. Cheap, volatile, and other brands that have been tested that can show the test results. Fake ones can be recognized by certain markers, and that's covered in the broadcast on Try Something Not Vegetarian about making your own perfume and eau de toilette, eau de parfum, with pure alcohol that is Navi Mer, for example, drinkable alcohol, so it has to be suitable for consumption. In the Netherlands they put Bitrex and other chemicals in it, so you don't want that when you're making your own perfume. You need 100%, 98% pure alcohol. It's on the bottle, Navi Mer, and it's very expensive in the Netherlands because of the taxation system, but in the US alcohol is very cheap, so that's good to have and store in a fireproof manner so that it cannot cause fires, etc. And etherical oils, pure etherical oils, and to read the leaflets and to follow manuals online to do it as safely as possible. And to only use natural perfumes in eau de toilettes. For example, Spike. Oriflamme is another one. Homme for men. Esprit Vetiver eau de toilette. Organic. That's a bit more expensive. And then there were the two new ones. Weleda was this salvia deodorant. That has etherical oils, and there's another one with rose. I also like this rose. This is I can show the bottle. I haven't shown this one yet. Weleda Wild Rose. So basically it may be for females, you could argue, but I think it's also great for males. It's just the scent of the rose, romantic. I can smell it right now. Oh yeah. Well, you could argue it's a bit of a grandma smell, making people feel comfy. Don't know if it's too feminine, but I like it. It's calming, I think. In the red light, it's kind of hard to see. Rose Muscat, or whatever. Effective 24 hours. Natural body care without aluminum salts. 100% certified natural. It's on the bottle here. It's a little green logo there. So some people, I mean, children have died of inhaling deodorant, so don't do that to get high. And people can, in countries where that's legal, grow cannabis at home, of course. They only need to order some seeds. And millions of people die from the cancer-causing killer alcohol yearly. Nobody has ever died of using cannabis. It can also be eaten. That expands people's consciousness. While tobacco, the cancer-causing killer alcohol. And what was the other one? Narrow it down. Caffeine. Coffee. Which may be the most drank beverage on earth. Even though I don't drink it. I practically don't. Sometimes an espresso with halva, baklava. It can be nice. So yeah, never start smoking. It may still be way better because smoking causes the arteries to harden and break and blood clots, etc. All kinds of stuff people don't want. So also it's good to cut down to a reasonable amount. If people do smoke, perhaps it's the less the better, like with the cancer-causing killer alcohol. Though some people claim that the remedy that they used was honey with whiskey. So others may explain that alcohol is pure poison and it's best to completely avoid it. It's also halal, but some types are kosher. But qua pigs, it's clear they're both not allowed, not for Muslim people and not for Jewish people that want to keep kosher and eat what Allah permitted them to eat, basically. So I claim there is no entity, and the AI can never become the creator of heaven and earth, though it may become almighty, and time is energy, so time travel is possible. Some talk about Project Looking Glass, and there are several other projects, and they are declassified, so the government made them known to the public because they have a right to know. That's the way the American law works. So that's why we can see information about these declassified operations, projects and programs also on 999 Prologic 999.blog2blog.nl. But that's an old website, so it may contain more disinformation. You could argue that's fake news and this is real news. So please give me your likes, subscribes, and share this broadcast on your timeline for a better future. Unite with other people and let them know about what groups there are or where we can get information and what we can do for a better future for ourselves and our fellow humans. Do healing stuff for universal peace. Become vegan, and if you do use enough vitamin B12 and eat a balanced diet, then only then it's healthiest to be vegan. And otherwise people can get malnutrition symptoms, so read up on it and make sure you get your vitamins, proteins, and minerals like colloidal silver is a mineral the body needs. If people use colloidal silver, they also have to use probiotics, and of course never exceed the maximum dosage. That can be fatal, like drinking too much tap water. Filtered tap water can also be fatal, so mineral water that contains more of these minerals that people want. Some contain a little less, some contain more, so you could argue good water with more minerals. But there are other ways to take these minerals. I received a package from the health food store today, a free packet. You can get a discount, but also Alka tea. So I can give that a try. Alkaline, getting alkaline. Like I'm a battery. Okay, thank you all for watching, and see you all next time on Perfect Society. Peace out.